Luke Ashmead.
On the BBC, in beds, hearts and bucks.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Three Counties Radio on this Friday afternoon. The weekend starts right here. It's my pleasure to welcome into the studio Mark Shields. Hello, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Luke. Good
Welcome
to be
along.
here.
Yeah, okay. So, simple first question, really, isn't it? What's a panic attack?
What's a panic attack?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a panic attack is the best description. It's a sudden, overwhelming and over-empowering period of intense anxiety and fear that can often hit us completely out of the blue and knock us off our feet. And quite regularly, I have clients say, well, I was in hospital last night. Well, why were you in hospital? Well, I had this terrible feeling. I didn't know what it was. You know, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I was sweating. I was terrified. But they sent me home this morning from the hospital and told me there was nothing wrong. And they've had a panic attack. You know, that's what they've had. They've had a panic attack. So it's a sudden, overwhelming, over-empowering, immediate build-up and hit of anxiety. And basically what's happening is it's just stress hormones hitting the body. Things like adrenaline, cortisol, and often people go on with their daily lives. They're overdoing it, but they don't realise it. And it's actually recognised that panic attacks are the first level in stress. If we go back to prehistoric man, when he was defending his family in a loincloth and with a piece of wood in his hand, it was quite normal to, when faced with a horrible-looking beast, to, you know, for the body to be overloaded with adrenaline. All his everything about him would have become far stronger. His heart would have raced. He'd have been pulsating, sweating, but there was a reason for it. And I think that's the difference. 100 years ago, people would probably, they would most definitely have existed because neurology hasn't changed, but no one would have recognised them. Whereas today, and another interesting statistic, I think, is psychiatrists are seeing 50% more people to do with depression, anxiety, panic episode throughout, you know, over the last 18 months, with all the pressure we've probably all been feeling in a certain way with the economy problem and, you know, with worrying about our jobs and worrying about how we're going to provide for our families. So I think, you know, they're on the increase, unfortunately.
What does it actually feel like to have a panic attack, though, Mick? I mean, what are you actually feeling at that time?
Well, I mean, many of the people that come into the clinic will describe it as, you know, one of the most frightening experiences of their lives. I mean, they feel completely overwhelmed, out of control, and actually they think they're going mad or having a heart attack. I mean, some sufferers report a sense of dying, going crazy, having a heart attack, feeling faint, sick, losing control, losing balance. They can't seem to judge the floor with their legs. You know, these feelings can provoke a strong urge also to escape from wherever they are. You know, they have this feeling like, I've got to get out of here, you know, I've got to... And I think the panic attack is so much more lethal and damaging because at that time many people don't know what's happening, and it's only when they realise what's happening that they can start taking back control. But you know, it's quite common for people to have a panic attack in a restaurant and never feel comfortable to go there again because we call that
associate.
The fear of the fear. You know, it's so bad they don't want to do it again. I mean, medically, a panic attack is the first stage of stress. There's 3 levels of stress we recognise, and panic attacks are the first. And they come out of the blue. I mean, and common causes are kind of long-term overwhelmment, the inability to cope sometimes, long-term problems, continual worries, long-term stress, and general overload. I mean, when we feel out of control and we can't cope, funnily enough, the conscious mind believes we can, so we carry on doing all those things. It's only when the body suddenly says enough is enough, and that's when these sort of things, panic attacks, start to happen.
Are there dangers involved with having panic attacks?
It's a really good question, and the listeners will be delighted to know that no one has ever died from a panic attack, and there's no physical harm has ever come to anybody whilst having a panic attack. So they can't kill you, they can't harm you, although at the time you believe otherwise.
Could you become violent?
No, I mean, no.
It doesn't happen because you're inward, aren't you?
You become very insular, and you're very aware of the symptoms, and all you really want to do is either get to the hospital or get home. I see a lot of people, certainly a lot of stress clients, a lot of senior execs, and it's the same pattern. So they'll come on and they'll say, I'm having these panic attacks, I know what they are, and I can no longer stand up in front of a flip chart and present to my clients, because I had this terrible experience a week ago. And I might have mentioned it before, but there is a stress model, levels 1, 2 and 3, and level 1 is always panic attacks. And then you tend to work a program with them to slow things down, de-stress them over a period of perhaps a couple of months, and agree a program to help take it forward and prevent the attacks happening. So there's a number of things you can do there, okay? There's also things you can do as the attack is happening itself. And I had an experience 2 weeks ago on an aeroplane where I was sat next to a rather muscly chap, and to the right of him was a rather attractive young lady, and she began to have a panic attack. I mean, funny, this happens to me all the time. I've got no idea why. My wife prompted me to do something about it.
You're a panic attack magnet.
Yeah, you could say that. So I politely leant across and said, I'm a professional coach. Can I help your wife? And he said, yeah, please do. And I looked into her eyes, and she was hyperventilating. She was all over the place in a terrible state. And there were 2 techniques I used, okay? One is a diaphragmatic breathing technique, which realigns carbon dioxide and oxygen, okay? So it reverses the effects of adrenaline, okay? So that's the first thing I did. And the second, I used some EFT, some tapping, just tapping on the stress points on the fingers just to release the panic. So if you can imagine it, I had hold of her hand, I was talking to her, she had her eyes closed, she's doing the diaphragmatic breathing, which is in through the nose, holding for 3, and then out for 5. So the out breath is longer than the in breath, which realigns the breathing. And I was tapping it out on the fingers. And she went from a full-blown panic attack right in front of me. It took 6 minutes to take her down, and she was absolutely fine.
Let's speak to Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hi there.
Welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us. It's not necessarily a question, it's just entering into the conversation. What would you like to say, mate?
Yeah, basically, last year, I work in the public sector. Last year, I had a very bad series of panic attacks. And I just wondered if anyone else has experienced the same sort of level that I have. The last one I had before I stopped suffering from them was one, and I won't be too graphic. I was actually having a bath, and the panic attack happened.
And you're having a bath?
Yes. Now, I'm almost certain it wasn't due to the temperature of the water. I was in a stressful environment. I was off due to stress from work.
Right.
So I was getting that treated via GP and various other people. But the last panic attack I had was the worst one, and I actually thought I was having a mini stroke.
Really?
Yeah. And basically,
can I ask you, Chris, to explain to us how it started? How did it first start, and what happened?
Yeah, well, basically, when I was having a bath, I think it was about 10 minutes into the bath, I came over with a sensation all over me it was almost like disassociation with myself. I felt like
you mentioned that early on, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. That's
the body sort of feeling. Yeah, and then my tongue and my jaw on the left-hand side of my body, not the whole left-hand side, not the arms and legs, just the tongue on the left-hand side of the tongue and the jaw felt numb. So I couldn't actually speak properly.
That's very common.
Yeah, that actually went on to a period where I actually went to the GP and said to him, I'm having trouble speaking. It was almost like I couldn't actually say the right words for things. So, for example, she did a little test and she said, can you tell me what this is? And she was pointing to her watch. And I was actually trying to think of the words, what it was. And I knew what it was, but I couldn't actually speak the words, if you know what I mean. So, so it was very quite scary in a lot of those sort of cognitive respects.
And you're not suffering from panic attacks anymore. Has something changed in your life? Do you mind me asking, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the job I was doing has certainly helped a lot. I mean, I'm not going to go into the detail.
No, that's fine.
But it was the environment I was in was very stressful, and the fear of not having a job, so it was corrected and the stress was relieved.
Do GPs recognise this as something? Will they say it's a panic attack? This is how you deal with it. Yeah,
well, the first place is always to go to the GP, obviously, and a GP, the symptoms, they'll know what's going on. They'll know it's a panic attack, and these days they're recommending that exercise in the gym and things like that, and they talk about cutting out certain foods. Where they may not offer advice is, as Chris just said, about meditation and breathing techniques. I mean, the most powerful thing I've seen is the breathing technique, because it kicks back the adrenaline.
Yep.
You know, the physiology is that a panic attack cannot get through that breathing technique. So now, whether a GP would know that or not, I don't know, but they are definitely the first place to go.